So the first category, إنما الصدقات للفقراء, to the poor. What is the difference between the poor and the needy? Scholars say there are terminologies in Islam, and when these terminologies come together, each has a separate meaning. When they separate, they all mean the same. So Islam, when Allah speaks about al-Muslimin, it is exactly the same as al-Mu'minin. Islam and Iman are the same. O you who believe, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. This includes believers, Mu'minin and Muslimin. But when it comes together, when Allah says al-Muslimina wal-Muslimat, Mu'minina wal-Mu'minat, okay, there's a difference here because now they're joined together. Like al-Bir, al-Taqwa, al-Ihsan, al-Islam, when they come together, they separate. Poor and needy, they mean the same. He's poor, he's needy. But when they're together, each has a separate meaning. So what is the meaning of poor? The poor is a person who does not have enough that suffices him. So any person who has a salary and the salary runs out on the 10th day or the 15th day of the month or the 20th day, then he's broken. He needs to beg or to borrow to continue the rest of the month. And this happens every month. If he finds lunch, he won't find dinner. And if he finds dinner, most likely he won't find breakfast. This is classified as poor. A miskin or a needy is someone who's a little bit better. Salary suffices him for the whole month. He doesn't need money to eat or drink, but he's short on other things that are not a commodity, but are essential for a decent life. So he has all the basics, but he cannot afford to take his children to school. He needs school fees. He also is unable to provide for his children medical treatment. His wife may go under surgery and he cannot afford that. So such a person is not poor, but he is in need and he has to be helped. So this is a difference between the poor and the needy. It's very slight, but yes, a man can be having a job and a monthly salary, and he has a house. He wants to get married, but he cannot save a penny to get married with. And he needs money for the wedding, for the dowry, and he can't afford it. He's considered to be a miskin, a needy. He can be helped from zakat money, providing of course he's a Muslim, because I cannot give zakat money except to the Muslims. Dependents, or to my wife, they all depend on me and I am obliged to provide for them. Then we have al-amilina alayha, and these are the administrative workers. Who these workers are, and it tells you that these workers must work for the Muslim ruler in an Islamic government, or that applies Islamic law, because such workers are given part of the zakat that they collect. So whether they are accountants, whether they are physically collecting zakat from people, or distributing it to the poor. Purposes of travel, the imam, the Muslim ruler, imam means Muslim ruler, not the man who leads a prayer only. This is a general terminology, a wider aspect of it. So the imam is entitled to take from the zakat. He collects and gives a portion of it to those who work, even if they are rich and self, because they've devoted some of their time to that noble task of collecting and distributing the zakat. They're entitled to have their share, their salary of it. Now, 3-4 lines before the end of this third category, it says that these may deduct from what they collect of zakat money to pay to their staff. And this is referring to Islamic organizations that collect zakat, and this is wrong. Islamic organizations that collect zakat cannot give their workers, their staff, from zakat money under this category, because this category is solely limited to workers in the government underneath a Muslim leader or ruler who appoints them for such a task. His zakat. I'm a billionaire and I have like $10 million every year zakat, a lot of money. So I hire 5 or 10 people to collect the names of the poor families in my city and to go and detect whether they're needy or not, and to give them their share of zakat. So can I give from my zakat salary to those? The answer is no. They are not part of the administrative workers, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Number 4, those whose وَالْمُؤَلَّفَةُ قُلُوبُهُمْ. وَالْمُؤَلَّفَةِ قُلُوبُهُمْ is a category that scholars disputed upon. The most authentic opinion and the majority of scholars say that this is the only category we're allowed to give to non-Muslims. Some scholars say that it is not to be given to any non-Muslim, only to those whose hearts are inclined to Islam and they have authority in their people. So I can find 100 janitors and workers and poor people who are non-Muslims, and when they see money, their hearts are inclined to Islam. So I give it to them. The answer is no, because they're interested in my money. But if I genuinely see someone who always asks about Islam and he says, wow, Islam is a beautiful religion, I love your religion of this and that, and he's genuine in his feelings, I may give him from zakat money if I can, or if I think that this would make him more interested in Islam. Like Dr. Abdul Rahman al-Sumait, may Allah have mercy on his soul, the Kuwaiti da'iyah, who managed to make like 13 million people accept Islam in Africa. He spent more than a quarter of a century there. A great man. He used to go and make da'wah. So he goes to a tribe that are all idol worshippers. 2,000, 3,000 people. And he speaks to their leader. And he convinces him of Islam. And the leader is so happy about Islam and interested in it. So Sheikh Dr. Abdul Rahman gives him money from the zakat as a gift. And the tribe's leader is happy with the money he got, of course, and with the presentation he received about Islam. So he accepts Islam. And immediately the 2,000 followers accept Islam as well. So this money, the zakat, was put in the right place. Walillahi alhamd, with the grace of Allah Azza wa Jal. Number 5, the freeing of people in bondage. وَفِي الرِّقَابِ. And we know that الرِّقَاب is the slaves. So one category is to free slaves who are Muslims, either to go and buy a slave from the owner and set him free from zakat money, or there is something that is called al-mukatab. A slave comes to me, his master, and I want my freedom. So can I buy myself from you? I said, yeah, sure. Okay, master, how much you want? I said, well, you're worth $5,000 in the market. Bring me 4,000 and you're free. You have 6 months to collect the money. So I set him to go and work. Some of them are good accountants, engineers, maybe handymen. They collect money. And in 6 months' time, so much money. So he goes to people and asks them for zakat. So the people ask, can we give him from zakat money? The answer is yes. So they help him to buy himself out. Another type of people in bondage, those who were imprisoned, who were taken captive by disbelievers after a war between the Muslims and their enemies. So we go and approach our enemies. We go to the Israelis and say, listen, you have in your jails a number of Muslim captives. We want to buy them off and set them free. So we can give also from zakat in that category. And it is important to know that in Islam, a lot of people would open the window for shaitan, for the devil, for Satan, for Lucifer to come and mess up with their mind. So you would think, oh, maybe you won't dare talk about it, but you'll think it. Why does Islam allow slavery? This is inhumane. This is not right. First of all, learn to hold your horses and not to jump the gun. Ask yourself, out of the 1,000 things in Islam that I like, how many things that I'm hesitant to understand? 1, 2, of all these 1,000 things, would you compare this to be a serious issue? We talk about slavery. Let's go 1400 years back in time. So there were Jews, there were Christians, there were idol worshippers, and there were fire worshippers. They existed in Arabian Peninsula and the Middle East. We have no problem in that. Question 1. Was Islam the first to introduce slavery? Answer is definitely not. Islam is the last one of them to come, time-wise. Slavery is there since the beginning of time. Slavery is there in the Old Testament of the Jews and the New Testament of the Christians. It didn't address this or say it's a bad thing. And the idol worshippers and the Byzantines and Romans and the Greek and the Jews and the fight with slavery. So why hold it against Islam? Not only that, when you come and look at the sources of slavery in other cultures and religions, the sky is the limit. If I'm in debt and I can't pay my debt off, they come and take my daughter and my son and turn the people traveling, and we see a traveler or two, we raid them, take their money, take their wealth, and make them our slaves and sell them. This is normal practice. A landlord, those who are working on his land are his slaves, are his property. And till date, you can go to for $200 or $300. It's yours. You can do with it whatever you want. In Islam, it's a religion from Allah, came to abolish all of these wrong practices. The only source of slavery that is legitimate and permissible is prisoners of war, captives of war, that is between Muslims and non-Muslims. War is inevitable. It will take place. And we see that all wars that are being waged nowadays, or most of them, are waged by non-Muslims. And when they have prisoners of wars, usually they kill them on the battlefield. And at worst case scenario, put them in detention camps like Guantanamo Bay and prisons, maybe for life. In Islam, the only source of slavery is through war, Islamic war. So we have captives, prisoners. What to do with them? Put them in prison cells for 10, 20 years until they die out of malnutrition or illnesses or diseases? No. Islam says, give them to a Muslim family. And they're sold and bought like animals, but they're treated like human beings. You're not allowed to beat them for no reason. You're not allowed to mistreat them. You must feed them of the food you eat, clothe them of the clothes you wear. Do not burden them with tasks they cannot bear. And if you do, you must. That looks for the pros and cons. Wars are inevitable. What to do with 100,000 prisoners if we raided a country? This is inevitable. You have to do this. Don't say that, why not live in peace? Look what other superpowers are doing to other small countries. So are we expected to just sit there and look? They are doing it, but they're putting it under different labels. WMDs, weapons of mass destruction. They raid a country, they kill 1 million Iraqis. No weapons of mass destruction. Oh, sorry. That's it? That's kiss and make up? This is how they think. So you have to be fair when you look at Islam. Islam does not promote slavery. Islam made slavery as a solution to a problem. But the funny thing is, there's only one source of slavery, and this is wars with non-Muslims. And this is why today we have zero slavery. But if this were to be brought back again, and it will, the funny thing is that though we have one source of slavery, Islam has so many sources of freeing slaves. So Islam encourages us to free a slave. Boom. The Prophet says, whoever frees a slave, Allah will free a limb of that person. Whoa. So if I free a slave man, Allah will free my whole body from hellfire. If I free 2 slave women, Allah will free my body from hellfire. This is interesting. I'm interested. Slave, you're free. Go. Not only that, the Prophet said that Allah says, whoever breaks a vow, you have to feed 10 poor people to break my oath by freeing a slave? Isn't that too much? This is Islam. Love it or leave it. No, I'm loving it. If you kill someone by mistake, I'm driving down the road and I hit a car and one person dies, free a slave. I have intercourse with my wife during the daytime of Ramadan while fasting. What a heinous sin. Free a slave. I say to my wife, you are haram to me like the back of my mother. Free a slave. What is this? And it goes on and on. So Islam promotes slavery or promotes freeing slaves. Be fair, man. So don't compare Islam today to what you see, the Geneva Convention, the democracy, the human rights. All of this is nonsense and nobody's practicing it. It's just for commercial use. And they don't care about it. And even if they do, we have the religion that we believe in, which is Islam, which we abide by. And this is why knowledge evaporates all doubts. When you have knowledge of your religion, you can stand with your head held up high and confront people with diplomacy, with politeness and respect, but explain to them how strong Islam is and how fragile all of their beliefs are. So once you know why slavery was there, then you will be, inshallah, in good hands.